Okay, so we should be on a recording right now. So welcome to Satsang. As you know, if you have any questions, you are welcome to pose them. You can pose them by just speaking your question or by writing your question in the chat box. And if you are watching on YouTube, you can message me by going to my Facebook page and message me. I get the messages, and also sometimes Tara is watching the YouTube and she can bring your question, write it down and bring it to me. So if we can turn our attention to presence, to beingness, resting, to rest, bring the mind, invite the mind to relax. It's not combating the mind. It is simply an invitation, a friendly invitation for your body as well. Maybe you've been very active during the day, so now you can just relax in being, pure being. So our true nature is this inner silence that we refer to as peace. And this inner peace is also referred to as Satchitananda, the bliss of the self. At the mind level, it's activity. And this activity does not affect the self, does not affect what you truly are. And yet we all know that we have the experience of being affected by what we perceive. Sometimes we are very deeply affected by what we perceive. So we wonder, how come? What is going on? Just to understand. We're not trying to change anything, we're just trying to understand. Whatever impacts you impacts someone. It doesn't impact no one. It doesn't impact a non-target. There has to be some target that gets impacted by whatever is occurring in the world, in the body, in the mind. And this someone that gets impacted by thoughts, by what is perceived. When we look for this someone, we only find presence. We do not find a someone. We find thoughts which refer to presence. We find perceptions and sensations, bodily sensations, which also refer to their knowingness, meaning the presence that knows them. You will always find what is true right now in your experience. You will always find this borderless, invisible, formless, knowing presence, aware presence. But you will not find a someone that is apart from this aware presence, which makes us wonder about what is it that gets impacted, what is it that gets affected. But yet we cannot deny that we get affected, even though we may understand that there is actually no one. There is no target. So the arrow is just floating in empty space. Without a target, there is no arrow. But we cannot deny that we do get impacted. There is something that's going on, the emotions, the feelings. So then we look at these emotions and feelings because they arise. And it's a good idea to look at them when they're not volcanic. And when we look at the emotions or the feelings, we notice a conversation, meaning we notice thought. Thought about me, about my past, my future. Judgmental thoughts. Comparative thoughts, comparing, which has judgment in it. And we also find, besides the story, we find feelings, meaning we find some sensations, bodily sensations in the chest, in the belly, in the face, in the shoulders. And if we are able to find that the feelings and the emotions are basically thoughts and bodily sensations, which are just neutral phenomenal events. Because thoughts arise and bodily sensations. If we can notice that feelings are made out of thoughts and sensations without adding a resistance, without adding our preferences, our combating, our combat with those bodily sensations. Just sort of arriving to that understanding, oh, there are thoughts and bodily sensations, and just to stay still, neutral around that, without thinking about them, without adding thoughts, adding your past preferences and prejudices, just to be still and allow what's arising to arise. In a way, at this very moment, we are allowing, meaning we are this inherently allowing, effortlessly allowing, this effortless yesness. We are that in this very moment, as whatever this mysterious appearance is appearing. We are that, and we are pretty relaxed about it. So there is a practice, there is a sadhana, there is a path whereby this very relaxation that you experience right now, just being an effortless relaxation, where you can bring some of that into your life. It's an inward attitude, an inward resting. But you recognize that. You recognize this restfulness. And you bring as best as you can this restfulness into your life. In the small, whenever small contrarieties, small inconveniences arise for you, to meet them, to meet the thoughts and the bodily sensation in your restfulness, in your ease, in your peace. Because what you truly are is this peace. You already are that, but what we usually add on is the argumentative mind, the desiring mind, this mind that starts with the assumption that there is something wrong, there is something lacking. And this assumption, this sense of lack, is based on the impression of being a limited body-mind, of being a form, that I am a mortal form. This impression is a belief. It is a download. It is an appearance that appears to you that you have accepted and you have made it your mantra. You have assumed that straitjacket, you have enrobed that costume, that the limitation of the body, mind, you have assumed them to be what you are, that those limitations are applied to you. While they do apply to the body mind, while the body mind is in the realm of limitations, you are not. Because you are the infinite, invisible self. You are the transparency of being. You are the vastness of being, the knowing beingness, the one knowingness, beingness. You are that. It's just so. That is so. It simply is so. And your recognition of your infinity, of your borderlessness, is a key recognition in your awakening from the impression of mortality and the impression of existence. This life, what we refer to, is one of the rounds that is available to you right now. To awaken and to apply yourself via your understanding, because your understanding is provided to you by your contemplation of truth. There is understanding. By applying your understanding in this precious opportunity that is given to you. Because we all know that we can live this temporary life with all our concerns and worries and troubles and fears, and we can live that way. We all know that. That's a no-brainer. We know how to live the misery. So we had enough practice with that. We had enough, and we can repeat it, but at some point it makes sense to step out of that, to step into the realm of peace. You ask, how do I do that? Simply contemplate this myth that you are immortal body-mind. Contemplate the myth that you are something, somebody contemplate the myth that your feelings know anything about you, or that your thoughts that you perceive, know anything about you. What is it that knows you, truly you, what you truly are, if not you? Only you can know you. Only the I can know I. Anything that is not I, non-I, cannot know I, because it is non-I. And we all know I as I. We all refer to I as I. What are we referring to when we say I? We could not be referring to the body, because the body is not I. The body is something that I experience sometimes. I don't experience it in deep sleep. So there is one I. Each of us refers to I as I. I know I. What else would know I? This is why the teaching is summed up as know the I, know thyself. I knows I knowing I. But what's really amazing is once you know I, you know yourself, you know all I's, because there's only one I. You know the I as universal, the universal self, universal I. So if you have any questions, you are welcome to share them now. We could explore whatever questions you may have. Hello, Rhonda. Rhonda, you write, hello, Magdi. When we say awareness is limitless, does it mean it has no edges, no borders between awareness and the objects arising in it, no distance? It's a good question, Rhonda. Let's take, for example, a thought. Yes? The thought is an object. Well, objects are classified, in three manners. There are thoughts, mentations, perceptions, and bodily sensations. So thoughts are mind, the world is perception, and the body is sensation. So let's take, for example, any one of them. Let's take a thought. Yes. So the question is the thought separate from awareness? What is the distance between the thought and awareness? If you ask yourself that question about the distance between a thought, which is an object, and awareness, for there to be a distance, there has to be an edge. So your question is about, is there any edge between awareness and an object? If you look at the thought and you try to find the edge between the thought and awareness, do you find any? Where does the thought arise? Where do you look? And where does the thought, where does awareness end and the thought starts? Because If there is an edge between awareness and the thought, there has to be a place where awareness is, and then it stops being awareness, and now there is the thought, because there is a border. In fact, that is not our experience. Our experience is that awareness permeates the entire thought. The thought is sort of like a awareness taken on the form of a thought, or awareness taken on the form of a perception, because the world is perceptions. We perceive through the senses, and the body is sensation. We perceive the body, we know the body through sensations mainly. And when you look at where does awareness end and the sensation start, you will not find a place where awareness ends. You say, oh, well, that's where awareness ended, and that's where the sensation is starting. So the answer to your question is that there are no borders, there are no edges, period. There are no edges, period. In the entire realm, in the infinite worlds, in all the infinite realms, there are no edges, no borders. There is only wholeness, beingness, knowingness, isness. God, indivisible, undivided, no borders whatsoever anywhere. You may feel that there is a border, but the feeling is something that you know. You perceive the feeling, and then the mind says, oh, that's a border. It's a thought that arises that says there is a border. But the fact that a thought is arising saying there is a border is not a valid proof that there is a border. It's just a thought arising. It's intimate. The thought is intimate with awareness. And the thought is just a modulation, a vibration, a form that awareness is taking. So you ask yourself, what is the distance between anything that you perceive and the knowingness of what is perceived? And you will find that there is no distance between the knowingness and the thought or the perception or the sensation. Randa, you also write, from the point of view of pure awareness, actions appear, independent of a personal doer. Is that a correct understanding? It is it's an almost correct understanding. In that, from the point of view of awareness, one could say that there are events happening without any separate doer. Meaning, everything that is arising, that is occurring, does not refer to anything separate. A good example of that is in your night dreams. There are all sorts of impressions, all sorts of things happening. But there is no independent, there are no actual independent forms. Even if in your dream you have 10 people that you are dreaming of, they're doing different things. One of them is walking, one of them is eating, one of them is playing music, whatever. This does not mean that they are separate, because they're all part of your dream. They're all made out of your dream. But the reason why I said this almost the correct understanding is because you are still referring to some forms and appearances. And in the teaching, we do refer to forms and appearances, but we only refer to forms and appearances in a pedagogical manner, simply to clarify the teaching. But the understanding is a silent understanding, and it can be worded in the following manner. There is one reality, and in it, everything and everyone is this reality. And whatever is appearing is that reality's dream, is arising out of that reality to that reality and dissolving in that reality. Maybe you are meaning the same thing in that the appearance refers to this reality, to this one reality. But the experience of Sahaja Samadhi, in the complete merging into the self as the self, the experience is that of peace. Events are mind. Reality is beyond mind. Okay, Rhonda, I hope. Okay, Rhonda, you're also right. One reality that has two orders: pure awareness and the apparent objective world that appears within it and has no independent existence. You could say that, yes. But if you say that this reality has two orders, pure awareness and the apparent object world that appears within it and has no independent existence, I would not limit it to two orders. I would say one reality that has infinite potential. Why only two orders? Just because there is this body-mind experience does not mean that consciousness is limited by or to this body-mind experience. In fact, there is the realm of worms, and there is the billion other possibilities and potentials that we at the mind level cannot even fathom. So I would say one reality that has infinite potential, infinite orders, and that's where we come to the terms of God's omnipotence. And there is no limitations that can be imposed onto consciousness. And what you know at the mind level is just a speck of dust in terms of the infinite potential of God. You're welcome, Rhonda.
Maggie?
Yes, hello, John.
Hi, Maggie.
Yes.
Would you go over the neutral again when you're talking about feelings, thoughts, sensations?
Yes.
Are you basically talking about sort of like there's no positive charge or negative charge? I just don't understand the word. Um, so if you can elaborate on that again, that would be helpful for me, please.
John, if feeling, uh, when we sort of peel the onion of the feeling, we look at our experience when we're having a feeling. We will find, for example, there is, for example, the thought that, let's take the thought, I'm annoyed. I'm annoyed by my neighbor. Right? When we are feeling annoyed, so we will find the thought, I'm annoyed. This my neighbor is a schmuck. Now, the thought of its own is completely neutral, meaning it's just an appearance. It's like the thought, today is Thursday. My neighbor is a schmuck. It's just it's a vibration. It's a certain frequency, a certain vibration. The vibration today, Thursday, has a certain amplitude and a certain, magnitude. But the vibration I hit my neighbor may have a different amplitude and different resonance, but it's still a vibration. So from that perspective, from a purely scientific observation of the phenomena of thought, it's just an observation. You could be observing a black hole, or you could be observing a galaxy. There are two different appearances, two different perceptions. So a thought is a neutral mind event. But when it comes to the feeling, there is more than just a thought. There is also, some bodily event happening. When you look at the bodily event, you will find that the bodily event is made out of maybe heat in the chest, or flush pressure or tension in the eyes, or in the heat in the face, a gripping sensation in the arms. You will find that there are bodily sensations. And if you turn yourself to any sensation of its own, of itself, like you take a picture, if you can have a sensation camera, if you can invent a sensation camera, that's a good idea. And take a picture with the sensometer, sensation camera, and it'll be like, you can print it. It's just an image. So there is a possibility of looking at a sensation as just a certain neutral appearance. Neutral does not mean it's white. No, it could be blue, it could have different colors, purple and orange and yellow and whatever. It's still neutral. When you're standing in front of a neutral painting, or when you're standing in front of a painting from a neutral position, you're not talking about I'm not talking about just a blank screen. I'm talking about an appearance. All appearances at their root are neutral. But when you bring the two together, when you bring the thought, I don't like my neighbor, and you bring the sensation together, you have a feeling. Why do you have a feeling? It's a good question. You have the feeling because inside the thought there is a hidden belief that I is a me, that I is some person, is a limited personal self. Because if you bring the thought, oh, this dog is black, okay, oh, it's black dog, and the sensation of your finger together, okay. If you bring, this is a black dog, and the sensation of your finger together, you don't have a feeling. It's, you don't have anything really. But if you bring the sensation, oh, I hate my neighbor's dog, or the thought, excuse me, I hate my neighbor's dog, with the sensation in the body that resonates with that, you will find a feeling, because inside the thought there is the hidden belief that I am a separate self. Mm-hmm. So I know I'm going around your question a little bit. What I'm trying to point to is that a feeling is a neutral sensation with a me thought, and an emotion is a neutral sensation with a me thought, meaning a feeling, but it's on steroids. It's on high dose. It's erupting. Is that, they say, on steroids? Is that the expression? Yeah, Nanda, correctly?
Yeah, steroids is good.
Yes, on steroids. So, and when you are able in your contemplation, John, to see that, into that, to sort of, when a feeling is arising, usually with emotions, it's a little bit too difficult because emotions is much stronger. But to notice the me thought and how it triggers the body, and in a way the body, because it's a neutral space, you can experience all sorts of sensations. Mm-hmm. When the me thought is not around, when you sort of separate them, the sensation, the feeling is disarmed, and it sort of becomes neutral. It loses its standing. It's standing on the me. Its support is its life force is the me. So the feeling it needs the me to maintain it. But when you perceive the me, you perceive it's just a thought. As soon as you're perceiving the me thought, you're bringing in consciousness, because what perceives is consciousness. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. As soon as you're perceiving, oh, there is the me thought, this is a me thought, you are already taking the handcuffs off the feeling. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yes, can you still hear me?
Yes, I do. I hear you.
I'm hearing what you're saying. It's clear now. It has been unclear before on just the word and the conceptual ideas of it and stuff like that.
Okay.
I think correct me if I'm not correct on this, but it also seems like it's basically thought comes in and it's an interpretation. It's not reality. It's an interpretation by thought. It's conditioned, and so it's really referring to the personal I rather than the true I, the true nature, consciousness.
Yes, but an interpretation doesn't necessarily mean that that is becoming personal, that you're adding a person. You may be interpreting something out of your understanding. It's not just an interpretation. It is it's a personification.
It's a what?
Personification. Personification. Is that?
Oh, personification. Yeah, personification.
Personification.
Yeah. I see.
It's not just an interpretation. It's personalizing.
Yeah.
Bringing in the person in there. You're bringing in me as a person.
Yes.
Which is not just an interpretation. Interpretations are fine.
Yes. Yeah. So the observation, obviously, the observer or consciousness or awareness is the only reality, and the and once the other gets brought in by conditioning, whatever the way it happens, then it's believed, and the true reality becomes obscured, is what it sounds like. And so the experience actually, in my experience, seems to be that being in the place of consciousness, more so in referencing the person, there is an experience of it being more neutral, I could say.
Yes. Right. So as soon as there is the belief that something is happening to me, you have triggered the feeling, the entire feeling round. As soon as you bring in that it's happening, something's happening to me, and that there is something, of course, that's at risk. I mean, I am hoping it's something nice happening, then I'm having a good feeling. But if it's not something really, really nice happening to me, I'm gonna have a so-so feeling. So it's the me and the feeling what triggers the feelings is the me. So when we are trying to manage our feelings, we're trying to have good feelings, we still have the me. We're still in the separate self, and we're trying to sort of caress the separate self. Say, hey, you good boy, good girl, you goody, but that goody, good girl or good boy, anytime it can get triggered, and then it shows its fangs and bites you, and you go, oh my goodness. So it's not there are sometimes a trend to, we need to feel good, So the spiritual inquiry is never about feeling good. It's about awakening. The realm, totally not at the world, body, mind level. It's at the Turiya level, at the awakening level.
Yes. That's good. Thank you, Meg. I appreciate that.
Yeah, so this is a very good, John, with the little things that upset you, could be somebody's a little late, they make you wait 10 minutes more, you get a little annoyed, or you were hoping that you're looking for your notebook and you cannot find it. It's annoying. The little things, you work on with the little things, the little annoyances, to notice that, the me aspect and the sense of the feeling aspect, that the charge that gets into the bodily sensation and becomes a feeling is with the me thought. And you learn to sort of see that you're understanding how the little annoyances work is a helpful understanding that can be available to you when the larger things work. And in time, they disengage that entire process.
Yeah.
of personification.
Yes.
Personification.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good, man.
Okay, John. Thank you for
Thank
your.
you.
Any question? Anyone? Okay. Ananda. Yes. Ananda, you're right. Things that exist in two-sidedness can present in very extreme ways. Sudden death in a car, for example. Things that exist in two-sidedness can present in very extreme ways. Sudden death in a car.
So the reason
Can you say some more about that?
the reason
Yes, I hear you well.
okay, I have a big
You have an echo?
no idea why. The reason that I mentioned that is because I've been thinking about this link between looking at the small thing and that could be upsetting and getting some clarity, and then making the leap to the completely to the body mind unacceptable and accepting that as well. So it seems that it takes a completely other dimension almost to have that umbrella over absolutely every relative possibility.
You don't need to have an umbrella over every possibility, Ananda. You're simply dealing with what is arising. So it's very specific. What is arising is very specific. Could be a very specific annoyance or some very specific worry about your life, about your future, or an annoyance in a relationship with your partner or your friend or your boss, or it could be just a general sense of annoyance that you cannot pin it down. But all of that is very specific. So you don't need to have sort of an umbrella, a tool that can have an umbrella approach on every possibility. Whatever is arising for you that may be a specific annoyance to you is very specific. And so at that point, you can look into what assumptions there are, what is behind the scene that is maintaining and anchoring this unhappiness. Because consciousness is freedom and happiness and bounty and eternal freedom, and there's no other reality but consciousness. There are no opposites. So it's complete freedom, and it's the only reality. Everything is it. So it's complete abundance. It's a magic show on steroids. It's the biggest magic show, is the show of consciousness. So whatever is arising for you, then you can look into in what aspect of the experience you are having, you are assuming yourself to be a vulnerable mortal object or a form that is lacking. Where is that position that you are taking as being some vulnerable form, some lacking form? It will be there. Mm-hmm. And as you perceive it, it is as it facing the consciousness as perceiving that, it fades. Consciousness is a vastness of being. Mm-hmm. When it looks at the assumption that, oh my God, something's going to happen to me, it dissolves it. It goes, come to me, baby, come and sit in my lap, come, come to mama, I'll take care of you. It dissolves in the consciousness that's looking at it. So you are looking not from the vulnerable mortal aspect. You're always looking from the position of consciousness. So it's consciousness looking. And so I look as consciousness, I ask, well, what is the problem? Oh, it's a thought about what's going to happen to me tomorrow. And consciousness would say, don't worry about tomorrow. What tomorrow? Peace is now, and I'm giving you everything right now. That's right now. And if there is anything you need for tomorrow, it will be provided. It's going to come to you. It's going to come to you as a thought. Oh, let's do this. How about that? One thing that's for sure, whatever consciousness decides to do, it doesn't give a hoot about success or failure. Success or failure is the human download. Oh my God, this is going to work for me. So the complete freedom is maintained in whatever consciousness chooses to do. It chooses to travel, it chooses to build something, it chooses to invite friends to do something. Who knows, But all along, it is not worried. It uses thought to or to contemplate the self, or to celebrate. And of course, it uses thought for practical reasons, for practical purposes. That's need to buy some fuel in my car, so I go to fill up the tank. This is a thinking that has practical. All of that is available to you from consciousness. Consciousness does not download the thought, oh my God, what is going to happen to me? That's not consciousness speaking. That's ignorance speaking. That is turning your face away from consciousness, perceiving yourself as a separate person in an exterior world that speaks about what's going to happen to me tomorrow.
So this would be kind of like taking the dream analogy totally seriously.
Which analogy?
The dream analogy of life. So that, because I consider this sometimes, I would rather be at peace and happy.
You cannot be at peace and happy as a person.
Yes, right. But as the witness of a dream of a dream, would you say it's not?
You have to die to the dream. Not just witness it, because there's still a separateness in witnessing. You are not witnessing the dream. You are dead to the dream.
You're what?
Dead to the dream.
Oh.
So let me say something about that, because it may,
Yeah, not meaning that there's no dream, but there's no identity.
If you want to have a happy dream, there is still a you that is wanting to have a happy dream. So the happy dream is the know you. And in fact, the separate self is a download. In your experience, when you don't add the I thought, there is no problem. Because the I thought is always about past and future. is never saying all is well. It says, oh, I'm really happy now because I got the red Maserati that I wanted, or I'm really happy now because I won the lottery. It's always into the past and the future. When you are happy, when you are truly happy, there is no thought. There's no person. And in fact, that is our true nature. That is what our reality is a complete transparency. It is. There is no person. There isn't a person. There's just the light of being. It's just amazing. It's so wondrous. And it's infinite potential. It's like the split of the atom is nothing compared to consciousness. So that's in fact what the I am is. What I am is this infinite beingness, a transparency of being. But whenever the I thought is downloaded, then it's a different matter, because then there is a spinning of the feeling and the thinking. They ride each other, thinking, feeling, and the heart start pumping, and we are not very happy. We are not happy. So, but when the I thought is absent, it's really all is well. In fact, from the absolute perspective, nothing affects what you truly are. But the mind has to get out of the way, has to be cured from the virus, this tendency to always personalize everything. Mm-hmm. It is all it's happening to me. What's happening now is happening to me. It's a good thing happening, good. Not a bad thing happening, oh my God. The good and the bad is just this whole realm of thinking and splitting and dividing and separating, and he's good, she's bad, and I'm better. All that is, it forms like tentacles in your being. It makes roots in you. Even sometimes in your night, in your resting, it starts to haunt you. Oh, he did this. Is he gonna do that? Is she, etc. To me as a body mind, the I thought. The I thought is an appearance that appears to you, that you have the option to jump on that bandwagon or say, what a joke. What a joke that some thought is arising saying, hello, consciousness, hello, I want you to be me, you come down to me, you be me, and don't worry, I'm going to live another 50 years, and even like maybe 6 years ago, I'm taking vitamins and I'm whatever, and then you're gonna ride my ride. It's a joke.
I've been wondering about this. Now, say could you put yourself in the place of ignorance and experience suffering if you tried? I don't think you could.
I thought you loved me, Ananda.
I know, because I'm beginning to have that feeling. I'm beginning to have not full-fledged, but some feeling like, it would just be imagination and a joke.
Yes, the roller coaster ride, the unhappiness keeps diminishing. It decreases with your contemplation. It decreases both in its frequency and also in its magnitude. So it starts to arise to you less and less. And when it arises, it's like fainter and fainter. In time, it becomes just a distant memory. The things that used to upset you, you can think about them. You know, they don't upset you. There's nothing. You know, it's like, okay, well, you know, yeah. In fact, you may get to understand that everything that happened in your life had the purpose to bring you to the peace that you're experiencing now. Everything, all the people that have at the time you thought they were the cause of your unhappiness and misery, and you were wishing they never existed. They were all part of your karmic path, part of your path to the end of karma. So you arrive at the end of karma, at the end of all sadhanas.
I would love to just. Do you hear an echo?
No, I don't hear any echo.
Okay, I'll try to.
Others are hearing an echo, maybe. I don't know.
One thing that still bothers me some is I think back on being taken advantage of financially when I was in a situation and somebody had access to my stuff, and they took advantage of it toward at the end of a relationship, a dissolving relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And it happened several times.
Yes.
And there's just a little charge about that, so I just wondered if you could just say something. Give me the appropriate wisdom.
Well, it is meant to bother you. Until it stops bothering you. You're still imagining a me. And so you are bothered. Then that's what the me is this echo. And in a way, when we sense that echo, we hit the bell so the echo continues. There could be an arising in memory that flashes, that a flash that flashes through. But if you don't participate, then it fades in the space out of which it arose. So the botheringness that you're experiencing is meant for you so you can see your holding, so you can see your participation in that botheringness. And as soon as you cease your participation in this botheringness, your participation in via thought, whatever, I'm the victim, why did this happen to me? I did this and they did that. Whenever you withdraw your participation, then God will withdraw the annoyance and the unhappiness. So in a way, it's in your hands.
I'm just thinking the participation could be thoughts. It could also be holding, almost like willfully holding the tensions in the body that we do the practice of letting them go, you know? So that they're there to jump on the bandwagon when the thought comes up, something like that.
It could be. I think there comes a point where we can't hold on to those feelings, you know, that they're really unpleasant. I think there comes a point where we can't continue with that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ananda. Yes, thank you for your question, Ananda. Just want to address a question. Could you speak about leaving normal working life for the spiritual path? Leaving the world for the spiritual path. I think it's a good idea to leave the world for the spiritual path if the world leaves you. But if the world does not leave you, and if the spiritual path does not come of its own and sweep the world away, why make any move? Because if the spiritual path sweeps the world away, it's God's doing. And if the world leaves you, it's God's doing too. I would not bring in man's doing. I would not bring in the mind into such a choice. The world and the spirit are not two. The impression of duality is not between the world and the spirit. It's between the separate me, the separate power and God's power, the separation between man and God. That is the separation. But the world, body, mind, and spirit are not separate. In fact, the world is a very good place, very good spiritual place, a tougher place than the ashram. Ashram protects you, it seems, but it also deprives you from the opportunities of getting rubbed, or your vasanas getting rubbed in the world, getting triggered in the world. Because the world is much more disorganized than the ashram. And so it is possible that there would be a lot of unvisited realms in your Vasanic realm when you are in the ashram, while in the world, they will be sure to arise. Now, there are, of course, instances where there is a very strong voice or force or energetic calling to retire from the world and conduct one's contemplation in a spiritual center or a spiritual place. I would say to be really watchful that that is not being done out of a place to hide. Or a place to cocoon oneself. I have never lived in spiritual centers. I've been to a few, into retreats, sometimes spent a few weeks, but my path has always been in the world. And there are so many powerful vasanas in the world, relationships, about money, about homes, security, is a sense of finding meaning in one's world, in where others are so different from you. There are quite a few really powerful vasanas that we can and if you love truth, God will be right there. It's closer than close. And if you don't, then it doesn't matter whether you're in ashram or whether you're in the world. In both cases, you're on the roller coaster ride. Are there any other questions? Okay, well, thank you very much for your lovely company and friendship and your love for truth. Namaste, and we'll see you soon.